The state's war on the public continues apace. Oxfordshire County Council have approved plans to lock residents into one of 6 zones to save the planet from global warming, or that's how they frame it. The latest stage in the 15-minute city agenda is to place electronic gates on key roads in and out of the city, confining residents to their own neighbourhoods. Under the new scheme, if residents want to leave their zone, then they'll have to get permission from the council, who get to decide who's worthy of freedom and who isn't. Chairman Mao, eat your heart out. Residents will be allowed to leave their zone a maximum of 100 days per year. But in order to gain even this, every resident will have to register their car details, with the council deciding how they're going to move and when via cameras around the city. So if you're a struggling single mother trying to take your kids to school before getting to work, you won't be covered. Tough luck, dear. Take the bus. Or balance yourself and your 3 kids on an e-bike. Oxford City Council, led by a Labour, Lib Dem and Green coalition from hell, are to turn one of the most enlightened locations on earth, home to Oxford University, whose alma mater include John Cleese, Professor Stephen Hawking, Oscar Wilde and Margaret Thatcher, into an outpost of communist China. Councillor Louise Upton, Cabinet Member for Health and Transport at Oxford City Council, has admitted this trial is a nudge to change the way locals travel. Meanwhile, commentator Bernie Spofforth has pointed out that nudge policy is set to be enshrined in law by the House of Lords. Take a look at this. In our hands, behaviour change for climate and environmental goals. Absolutely terrifying. Remember all the nudging during COVID, which saw us locked up, muzzled and unable to bury the dead? Well, there you have it, folks. As predicted by so-called conspiracy theorists who are fast becoming soothsayers and arbiters of truth, COVID lockdowns are to be replaced with climate lockdowns. It's not surprising that this brainchild has come from the political left, because socialism is all about controlling people, controlling their labour, controlling their money and controlling their lives. Forget about no free movement now that we're out of the European Union. We haven't even got free movement on our own shores. It doesn't help, and it's a cruel irony, that the allegedly freedom-loving Conservative Party set this hell train in motion under Boris Johnson, who dares to call himself a libertarian, an egregious breach of the Trades Descriptions Act. By showing totalitarian zealots a bit of leg by setting the precedent of COVID lockdowns, we've given bureaucrats an inch and now they're taking a mile. When Boris Johnson asked us to stay home to save the NHS and promised it was 3 weeks to flatten the curve, that was the moment the genie escaped the lamp. Well, it ain't going back in. Perhaps now people will wake up when they get a fine for driving their car down the wrong street, one which is not in their approved movement zone. Mark my words, this is only going to get worse. The state has become our master and, dare I say it, our abuser. After all, what's the first thing an abuser does? Controls your movements, tracking your every move. Physical freedom is the ultimate hill to die on. If we're not free, life is not worth living. And these days, it's increasingly not worth living in high-tax Britain at all. Probably rather be in Beijing or Pyongyang. At least there, you get the full communist experience. The state has overplayed its hand in the last 2.5 years, creating a miserable, divided and poorer society. We need less government, not more. And that's going to be the next political battleground. In fact, I might buy a sauna, switch to a full carnivore diet and buy a few outdoor heaters just to send the message that I won't be controlled. People aren't stupid. People aren't ignorant, and people are not irresponsible. If you give the public information about energy, for example, or the environment, there's no doubt that most will, by choice, act accordingly. When the horrors of battery-farmed hens emerged in the 80s and 90s, millions of Brits opted for free range, by choice, and the price came down. No one minds recycling, and we all save money by owning energy-efficient appliances, whether it's a dishwasher or a car. But as we saw with autocratic lockdowns and vaccine tyranny, if you make people do things, if it's stick, not carrot, the policy backfires. All it does is radicalise the most compliant of citizens. Well, here's hoping it does. The state needs to back off and get the hell out of our lives. This latest attack on cars is a test case for human liberty, and it's driving me round the bend. What's your view? GB Views at gbnews.uk. Reacting to that is the freedom-loving Lois Perry of Car 26. I hate to say we told you so, right?
I know. Actually, somebody put on Twitter earlier, when I first heard Lois speaking about stuff on GB News and other channels, you know, I thought she was a bit mad. I thought it was a bit
crazy, conspiracy.
A bit crazy, a bit too much.
Tinfoil hat.
Absolutely, all of the above.
Flat earther.
That one, everything. But the tweet said, actually, now everything she's saying is coming true. So it's nice of him to say that. But I actually wish that it wasn't coming true. I wish that I was completely insane and we weren't going down this totalitarian route, which clearly we are. I did a tweet yesterday, which Oxford City Council responded to with this awful 1970s style animated video telling me why it was so fantastic that people would be confined to their zones. Yeah. And it's just absolute insanity. I mean, are we in a 1980s film that's set in the future about a dystopia? Were they telling us what was going to happen? Because we've got districts now. Like all of the films, whether it be Blade Runner, Total Recall, they all had districts, didn't they? And that's what we've got now. Ping, 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 you've left your district. And once there's electric cars, the car will just stop.
Yeah.
It will just stop. There won't be any getting a fine in the post, £80, if you leave your zone more than twice a week.
No.
The car will just stop.
Smart cars, smart motorways, smart roads. It's an assault on human liberty, isn't it? And as I've mentioned, this is a hill to die on. How ironic that this should happen in Oxford, which is, of course, the location of Oxford University, one of the great sort of focal points of Western enlightenment and Western ideas, liberal ideas.
Absolutely, which is why I believe it's been targeted. I mean, it's quite well documented and quite well known that the Chinese Communist Party makes huge donations to top universities and actually pays for whole colleges. Some of them are completely owned by the CCP now. So no, I'm not surprised at all. Actually, they go for the intellectual centres and they go for the power centres. Yeah. So yeah, we're in bed with them now. Jeremy Hunt's married to somebody who gets a cheque every week from the CCP. Welcome to dystopia. Here we are.
A man who spoke admiringly of China's lockdown policies.
Yeah, pulling people out of their homes and putting them in re-education centres. No, sorry. Camps. No, what were they called?
Oh yes, these
quarantines.
Quarantine.
That's right.
It's a polite word for it.
Yeah,
and it is a concern, and it all originates, ironically, from a supposedly freedom-loving Conservative government and Boris Johnson. He's no libertarian. The bottom line is that he talks a good game, but we set a precedent when we shut the country down for 3 weeks. Yeah.